Part 89. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 881. Chapter 881 Transaction. Xiaoling took a quick glance and found nothing wrong. She just asked, "Why are you picking flowers?" Xiaoyu lowered her head slightly. "I got lost. When I got here, I found it very beautiful, so I couldn't help but pick one." "Miss Ling, I'm sorry for disturbing you." These words are quite reasonable. Xiaoling looked at her again and saw no flaws, so she chased her away. "Go away. This is not the place you should be. Don't let me see you in the future." Xiaoyu suppressed the ecstasy in her heart, turned around with a limp, and was about to leave. "Wait!" Xiaoling stopped her. "What's the matter, Miss Ling?" Xiaoyu turned around. Under the moonlight, Xiaoling pointed to the flower in her hand. "Keep this." Xiaoyu's expression changed slightly, but she concealed it well in an instant, and said pitifully, "Miss Ling, this is just a wild flower, why don't you let it go?" Xiaoling sneered, "What's wrong with me just not letting it go?" She always felt that something was wrong. Although she couldn't see what was wrong, in line with the principle that Xiaoyu could not take advantage of her at all, even a flower. "I don't want to let Xiaoyu take her away, huh?" Xiaoyu bit her lip slightly. Xiaoling urged, "Why, are you so reluctant to part with this flower?" Xiaoyu was afraid that she would see something, so she had to let go, and the flower scattered into the bushes with the night wind. Xiaoling then allowed her to leave. Looking at her back, she regained consciousness and went back to her room to sleep. Xiaoyu walked back to the simple wooden shed in the backyard of Xia Shijuan's house, closed the door and windows, returned to her bed, and rolled up her sleeves eagerly. In the sleeves, there were 3 small white silk flowers lying quietly. The blooming petals were so white that they were almost transparent in the moonlight. "Thank God," Xiaoyu murmured, found a box, and put the flowers in it properly. "This is the kind of flower Wei Lingnan wants." Fortunately, Xiaoling arrived late. At that time, Xiaoyu had already found several such flowers. She originally planned to find a few more flowers, and maybe Wei Lingnan would grant her some additional wishes when he was happy, but unfortunately, she only brought back 3 flowers in the end. 3 flowers, what can you get in exchange for Wei Lingnan? Xiaoyu started to think deeply. A few days later, she escaped from Xia's territory with the help of Xia Shijuan. As she said, Xia Shijuan is a pig-brained person, but she is not. Based on the information about the clan given by Xia Shijuan, she contacted Aunt Lu, who had been communicating with Xia Shijuan, and asked Aunt Lu in detail when she first entered the territory, the route we took, and what the formation we heard about was going on. She is also lucky. Over the years, no one in the clan has tried to escape to the outside world, and the clan's defenses have long been relaxed. In addition, the Li family came frequently during these days. In order to facilitate their access, the formation on the mountain road has not changed. Xiaoyu combined Aunt Liu's narration and relied on her extensive knowledge to remember, and actually allowed her to escape. "It's finally out." She looked up at the clear sky outside, her heart filled with joy. She doesn't want to spend her whole life copying scriptures in that remote mountain village until she dies. She is still young and still has a lot of good time. She wants to live a wonderful and outstanding life, even better than Xiaoling. She took a deep breath and walked towards the contact point Wei Lingnan told her. Silent interior. Wei Lingnan took the box she handed over and opened it. He saw 3 small white flowers lying quietly inside, and a look of relaxation appeared on his usually serious and unsmiling face. He carefully took out the flowers with tweezers made of special metal, as carefully as he would a rare treasure, and put them into a sealed box filled with crushed ice. "This is the antidote," he gave Xiaoyu what she wanted. "Thank you, Mr. Wei." Xiaoyu hurriedly took it, looked at him nervously, and made her request with some trembling, "I escaped from the Xia family for these flowers. If I were caught by them, I would die. Mr. Wei, can you save me? I don't want to go back and die. Wei Lingnan looked at her. It's simple. If you go back to the Wei family's biochemical base, they won't touch you. Thinking of that dark biochemical base and weird laboratory, Xiaoyu couldn't help but shudder. If she went back there, she would rather go back to the Xia family to copy scriptures. Please, Xiaoyu knelt down and raised her head, I just want to live a normal life. I am not interested in the Wei family, the Xia family, or those earth-shattering secrets. Mr. Wei, just look at me. You have been doing experiments for so many years and still found 3 flowers. There is no credit but hard work. Please show me a clear path. I know that you have great powers. In this world, there are only people who can deal with the Xia family. You're alone. Please, please. She kowtowed as hard as she could, and soon the blood on her forehead stained the floor. Wei Lingnan looked at her expressionlessly, and his voice was as soft as talking to himself, am I the only one who can deal with the Xia family? Since I know so much about you, I should destroy your body and eliminate all traces of you. Xiaoyu was so frightened that she couldn't speak, so she had to kowtow harder. It's not that she hasn't thought about the possibility of being killed and silenced after the flowers are delivered, but the situation is so pressing that she can only take a gamble. Facing a monster like Wei Lingnan, people really don't dare to even have the slightest idea of resistance. Wei Lingnan in the secret room was handsome, looking down at the girl who kept kowtowing under the light, as if looking at a humble ant. You're lucky, he said after a long while, I can't go on a killing spree in your territory, this #%. He spoke the last 4 words in a very low voice. It was a strange language, like the sounds of countless creatures mixed together, or like some wild beast roaring in the wind. Xiaoyu couldn't understand and didn't dare to understand. She crouched humbly at his feet, just praying that she could get out of the room alive. Wei Lingnan walked to the window and looked out. The bustling streets were full of traffic and the crowds were busy, as weak as worker ants. His eyes were deep and he said in a low voice, you can go. Mr. Wei, Xiaoyu raised her head and looked at him carefully and doubtfully, did you agree to help me deal with the Xia family? Get out. He seemed to be in a bad mood. Xiaoyu didn't dare to ask any more questions. The terrifying chill hit her again. She remembered what a terrifying monster the man in front of her was and quickly stumbled out of the room. Wei Lingnan did not stop him. You are very lucky, he said softly to himself, still looking at the busy traffic on the street. Like your Xia family, I cannot leave too many traces in this world. Since you came and went from the Xia family because of me, then, I will eliminate the subsequent effects for you. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 882. Chapter 882 The Dusty History. Xiaoling heard about Xiaoyu's escape. She asked her brother in confusion, the clan was heavily guarded, how did she escape? Xiaomoyan took her for a walk on the mountain road, watching the tribesmen surveying every inch of vegetation at the entrance and exit, changing formations. She is very smart, we all underestimated her intelligence. She's not smart, Xiaoling angrily couldn't accept this statement. She and Li Lei also walked through that mountain road formation, and were trapped in it at first. It wasn't until Li Lei called Mr. Li to ask for support that the group of people finally got out. If Xiaoyu is said to be smart, doesn't it mean that she and Li Lei are stupid? How could her man be stupid? Xiaomoyan didn't pay attention to her little thoughts and just said, at least she graduated from Cambridge. As for his biological sister? Yesterday, her mother asked her to sort out the dowry. She counted it on her fingers for a long time, but she made a mistake. If she hadn't had the memory of her previous life, Xiaomoyan would have doubted whether she and Xiaoyu were in the wrong arms. Xiaoling was even more angry, I don't care. She's just not smart. The sound was a bit loud, and several nearby tribesmen who were exploring the mountain road looked over. Xiaomoyan felt a little embarrassed. This stupid sister of hers was so stupid that she was so stupid that the whole world knew about it. He sighed silently, diverted her attention, and said, in addition to her IQ, we also ignored one thing, and that is her background. What background could she have? Sure enough, Xiaoling's curiosity was aroused. Last night, Wei Lingnan sent a small team to try to get into the clan, but they were discovered, Xiaomoyan said as he walked. They got in along the route Xiaoyu used to escape. We arrested a few people, conducted interrogations all night long, and found out that Xiaoyu had actually been in the Wei Lingnan base all these years, and she had become a member of the Wei family. She returned to the Xia family this time just to do things for the Wei family. Xiaoling was extremely surprised, as if she was hearing a fantasy. It took her a long time to sort out her thoughts. Are you saying that Xiaoyu's appearance this time was not to recognize her ancestors but to deliberately sneak into the clan and perform a mysterious mission? Yes, Xiaomoyan said, it was probably a road exploration mission, and the clan's topographic map was handed over to Wei Lingnan. Xiaoling thought of Xiaoyu sneaking around her room that night. Did he have this purpose? She couldn't help but said bitterly, she should have been and thrown out at that time. What? Xiaomoyan suddenly had a bad premonition. Xiaoling told Xiaomoyan what happened that night. Take me to see that kind of flowers. Xiaomoyan made a decision immediately. All along, he had a vague guess that Wei Lingnan was trying to dig out the secret of reincarnation from the Xia family. And this secret must be on Xiaoling. What did they take from Xiaoling? Xiaoling took him to the flower patch. Under the sunlight, a few scattered small white flowers look ordinary, mixed with a hint of red, which is completely different from the white, transparent and silky feeling under the moonlight. Ah, they can actually change, Xiaoling whispered in surprise, squatting down and picking one, holding it in her hand. This is the flower of nirvana, Xiaomoyan said. Flower of nirvana, Xiaoling was confused. She thought it was just an ordinary wildflower. It's the first time I've seen it, but it's recorded in the family's collection of books. Xiaomoyan looked at the flower carefully with her hand and said calmly, legend has it that where the reincarnated phoenix lives, this flower will occasionally bloom. Planting flowers, no one knows what they are for. Perhaps Wei Lingnan knows. Xiaoling looked at the flower over and over, and now she had guessed a little bit of the truth. Xiaoyu must be looking for this flower, otherwise how could it be such a coincidence that he picked it at the right time? Again said, thankfully I was smart and didn't let her take it away. She has been taken away, Xiaomoyan said. Huh? Xiaoling's face was confused. Xiaomoyan lowered his eyes. How dare she leave the Xia family if she didn't complete the task? No one wants to face the angry Wei Lingnan, he is a perverted lunatic. Who is Wei Lingnan? Xiaoling was finally curious. He is not a human being. Huh? Xiaoling was startled. Xiaomoyan looked at her indifferently and said, what's so strange about this? It depends on your definition of human. To a certain extent, you are not a human either. This, why does it sound so much like a curse word? Xiaoling was no longer calm. Why am I not a human being? Can a normal person be reborn from nirvana? You are a phoenix, not a human being, Xiaomoyan said. Then he is also a phoenix. Xiaoling seemed to understand a little bit. The phoenix is unique and only exists in our Xia family. Unexpectedly, Xiaomoyan immediately rejected her guess and said, actually, I don't know what kind of creature he is. No one knows. Xiaoling blinked her eyes and felt at a loss again. Then why are you so sure that he is not a human being? Because the ancestors of the Xia family met him 400 years ago for the first time. Now that the matter has come to this, Xiaomoyan has no intention of hiding Xiaoling. After all, she is the one being targeted by Wei Lingnan now. He said to Xiaoling, I said you are not a human being because you can be reborn in nirvana. I said he is not a human being because he is immortal. Eternal age and immortality. Xiaoling was really frightened this time. Is there really an immortal person in the world? At least, in the eyes of mortals like us, he is immortal, Xiaomoyan said. No one is sure what kind of creature he is, and of course no one is sure whether he will die. In any case, his lifespan is much longer than ordinary humans, so let's call him immortal. Can this kind of thing be tolerated? Xiaoling was silent. But, she still had questions. How can we be sure that the Wei Lingnan our ancestors met 400 years ago is the same person as the Wei Lingnan today? Maybe they have the same name and surname, or they look similar. Xiaomoyan shook his head and said quietly, I hope it's just like that. He began to tell Xiaoling the secret history. The first time the ancestors of the Xia family met him, it was in a place called Weiling. In the wilderness, there was a dilapidated guide wooden sign. Half of it was buried in loess and sand, with the words Weiling, South written on it. Ancestors met a naked young man. He was very handsome and wet, as if he had just climbed out of the water, but it was strange that the weather was very hot at that time and there was no water source nearby. He attacked a passerby, hiding behind a rock and jumping out like a wild animal. He tore and disemboweled the person with his bare hands, then bit him with his teeth and devoured him. According to the notes left by his ancestors, at first, he really thought that encountered a wild beast, or a wolf boy. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 883. Chapter 883 Planet Guardian. He was probably hungry, so he swallowed the man without even chewing. The travelers around him fled. Only our ancestors of the Xia family looked at him with some surprise and novelty. After he finished eating the corpse, he raised his head and looked at the ancestors of the Xia family. The ancestors then saw clearly that his teeth were densely arranged. They were different from those of normal people. They were very sharp and pointed, closer to some carnivorous beasts. They could easily tear people to pieces. His hands and feet also had some beasts. It has the characteristics of a human being, thick and powerful, and its nails are sharp and hard, like the blade of a knife. He was covered in the blood of the dead person he had just eaten, and his eyes were fixed on his ancestors. By the way, his eyes were a very light amber color at that time, like some kind of wild beast. He threw himself at his ancestors and tried to kill them. Our ancestors were ready to fight, but they didn't expect that when he was flying in the air, his expression suddenly became distorted, and he fell down heavily, wailing and screaming, and rolling on the ground in pain. My ancestors stood there and considered for a while whether to come to the rescue. Although our Xia family is a family of national masters, because of this, we are more self-disciplined than ordinary people and cannot easily interfere in mundane affairs. Just when our ancestors were considering this, in just a short moment, the young man struggled to sit up, and then did something that shocked his ancestors. He slashed his own stomach with his sharp claws, before the corpse he had just eaten had time to digest. Minced meat and broken internal organs flowed out, everywhere. Along with the minced meat, there was a dark golden thing that flowed out. It looked like the bones of some creature, but it also looked like metal or a fossil. To this day, we haven't figured out what it was. After the minced meat, internal organs, and that piece of stuff came out, the young man got much better. He no longer wailed in pain and rolled on the ground. He sat on the ground panting and raised his eyes again to look at his ancestors. My ancestor had already taken out the weapons he carried with him. He was not afraid of beasts, robbers, bandits, or even the army. But the man in front of him, who could eat people without blinking an eye and disembowel himself, was really frightening to him. He felt a chill running down his spine. He looked at the man solemnly. After the man slashed his abdomen, he was not dead, but he was very weak. He was panting like a wild animal and said to his ancestors, "I need your clothes." When he spoke, he seemed to be speaking with great effort and with a heavy accent, making it almost impossible to understand what he was saying. The strange thing is that our Xia family has footprints all over the world, and that ancestor, the 37th National Preceptor Your Excellency, is even more knowledgeable. How could there be an accent in this world that he doesn't know? The ancestor's curiosity became even more serious, so he took off his shirt and threw it to the man. He originally thought that the man would use clothes to wrap the wound on his abdomen. Unexpectedly, the man first tore off the cleanest and softest piece of the clothes and carefully removed the dark golden bone that flowed out of his wound. Fossil, let's call it that for now, wrapped up. The originally violent man looked almost gentle when he was wrapping that piece of stuff. The ancestors looked at him in surprise and asked, "What is that?" He raised his head for a moment, with a more brutal and fierce light in his eyes than before. The ancestors had no doubt that if he hadn't been injured and unable to move, then the man would have killed him at that time. The ancestor took 2 steps back to show that he meant no harm. The man then lowered his head, carefully placed the wrapped things in his hand, and used the remaining scraps of clothes to bandage his wound. Once the wound was bandaged, he took the package of fossilized bones to himself again. In his hand, it can be seen that it is something he attaches great importance to. The ancestor could not restrain his curiosity again and asked, "What happened to you just now? Why is it so painful all of a sudden?" "The food has gone bad." The man's voice was still a little jerky, but it became smooth in just one sentence, "I need food." The ancestors looked at him carefully and speculated that when he said the food was spoiled, did he mean that he was acclimatized after eating the human corpse just now? It seems that he did not often eat people. The ancestor said, "I can give you food, but you have to tell me, what are you?" He did not believe that the man in front of him was a complete human being. Which human being could tear apart another human being with his bare hands? What's more, he has such sharp claws and teeth, the color of his eyes, etc. are not the characteristics that a human should have. The man then took a serious look at his ancestor. "You are not afraid of me?" He used an affirmative sentence. The ancestors laughed and said, "Our Xia family has never been afraid of anyone." The man lowered his head slightly and couldn't see clearly what he was doing. He suddenly rose up again and attacked his ancestors. But this time, he was still in mid-air. He fell down, and his wounds burst open, and his intestines and blood flowed all over the ground like a dam bursting. He fainted. When he woke up again, he found himself lying on a bed. The first thing he did was to turn over and look for the bag of fossil bones, completely ignoring that his movements were too big, causing the wound in his abdomen to burst again. "You move, get over it," he glared at the ancestor guarding the bed with a murderous look in his eyes. The ancestors unpacked his package while he was sleeping and checked it out. Because the dark golden bone fossil was so special, the ancestors tried to figure out what it was. God gave our Xia family unique abilities, and naturally He also gave us our unique mission: we observe the world, record history, and extract every special thing for future generations. The ancestors did not hide it from him. "Just take it as the money I received for rescuing you." The man still looked at him with murderous intent for a long time before he said, "You are the guardian of the planet." "What?" It was Xiaoling who spoke this time. She was extremely surprised. "Guardian of the planet? Did I hear you correctly? Did he say the word planet? Oh my God, that was 400 years ago. What dynasty are you from? It's not modern anyway. How come such avant-garde words appear?" "You heard it right," Xiaomoyan said. 400 years ago, the word planet was clearly written on the scroll written by our ancestors." Xiaoling took a breath of air. "Wei Lingnan, isn't he an alien?" Xia Mo was non-committal. "I will continue to tell you that story." The ancestor was also confused about the words planet guardian and asked him, "What is that?" The man sneered and said with some contempt, "It's such an uncivilized place, even the guardians of the planet are so ignorant and weak." What's more, he refused to say a word. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 884. Chapter 884 Record of Sinners. Xiaoling was completely shocked and was speechless for a long time. She can accept that she is reincarnated, but she is not mentally ready to accept that there are other strange creatures in this world. What exactly is Wei Lingnan? It's incredible. She looked at her brother. Is that person 400 years ago really the current Wei Lingnan? Xia Moyan said, yes. The ancestors asked him what his name was, and he reported the 3 characters Wei Lingnan, which were clearly the words on the sign that he saw on the roadside that day. As for his real name, no one knew. I know. He is too special. His ancestors set up an altar and did some divination, but nothing came out. The information about Wei Lingnan is completely blank. There are only 2 possibilities for this result. One is that the other party's status is far more noble than the ancestors, or the attainments in metaphysics are much higher than those of the ancestors. This is impossible. Our Xia family is already the #1 metaphysics family in the world. There is another possibility that he is not from this world at all, and his destiny is not on the track of this world. Xiaoling took a deep breath and murmured, is it really an alien? Xia Moyan said, the ancestors suspected that he might come from the world of stars, which is what we call aliens now, or he might come from the netherworld, the underworld, and places like 3 Mountains and Green Mountains. Who knows whether these worlds can even exist? No one can say for certain that he existed, but no matter what, he aroused great interest and vigilance in the ancestors. Since that chance encounter, the ancestors have been monitoring him. After discovering that he would capture living people for anatomy research, the ancestors began to pay attention to him. At one point, he considered eradicating him from this world, that is, killing him. The Xia family respects the laws of heaven and earth and rarely interferes with the internecine killings of all things in the world. But Wei Lingnan is different. He does not belong to this world. Therefore, the Xia family has the responsibility to protect other lives in this world from being killed by outsiders. Xiaoling asked, why didn't you kill him later? Xia Moyan said, the ancestors organized the most elite people in the clan to carry out an assassination, which did not even hurt Wei Lingnan's clothes. But Wei Lingnan seemed to be worried about something and did not fight back against the Xia family. He said to his ancestors, I don't want to be your enemy, I just need a place to stay, but if you insist on going your own way, I don't mind letting this world be destroyed with you. So arrogant, Xiaoling was very angry. Destroying the world? He is just dreaming. Xia Moyan said, what do you think the Wei family's current technological capabilities are? Xiaoling was slightly startled. She vaguely heard Wei Shaiyan mention that if the Wei family's biochemical weapons and viruses were spread to the outside world, they would be enough to destroy the world hundreds of times. Xia Moyan looked at her and said, not only now, he had that ability 400 years ago. In order to warn the ancestors, he launched a plague, and all the people in a small village died overnight. The ancestors were looking for there are many doctors with excellent medical skills, but no one knows what kind of plague this is and how to treat it. He is so crazy, Xiaoling said. Xia Moyan said, we infer that he has to pay a price for killing people in this world, so he does not kill unless necessary. After the plague, he did not do anything for many years. Apart from looking for living people for experiments, he did not kill easily. Hurt lives. Xiaoling said angrily, just doing experiments on living people is enough to kill them with thousands of knives. Xia Moyan's eyes were indifferent, looking at a wisp of white clouds on the horizon. The law of heaven and earth states that all living things are like ants. In the eyes of this world, human beings may be the same as birds and beasts. Human beings are just slightly larger ants. That's all. Do you think the laws of heaven and earth care about the life and death of a specific ant? No, it doesn't. Xiaoling seemed to understand but looked at her brother in confusion. Xia Moyan said, If you pay attention to the history of the Wei family, you will find that they have done more charity activities than anyone else. As many people as Wei Lingnan killed in the laboratory, he will do as much charity as possible to the world. Compensation. He protected the ecology, planted trees, built roads, built the Hope Project, and sent food to the victims of the disaster in South Africa. By the way, he was even the peace ambassador of the United Nations. The law of heaven and earth only wanted balance, and it let him go, murmured, "What kind of law of heaven and earth is this?" Xia Moyan's calm face showed a wry smile. "All people are like ants, do you think this is just a joke?" "Xiao Ling, don't curse the world. In fact, you are already a person favored by the world. If Wei Lingnan didn't dare to touch the Xia family's phoenix without the protection of the laws of heaven and earth, do you think you can survive until now?" Xia Ling's thoughts finally came back from those avenues of heaven and earth and fell on herself. "So, Wei Lingnan really wants to catch me?" she asked. "He can't catch you, so he has to let Xia Yu bring those flowers back, which is better than nothing," Xia Moyan said. "Xiao Ling, although he doesn't dare to touch you, he is afraid of everything. Maybe one day he will be desperate and jump over the wall directly. It's not necessary to arrest you for experiments. Just remember to stay away from him, you know." "Yes," Xia Ling responded, put away her uneasiness, and followed her brother towards the main house. While passing by the ancestral hall, there were cries from inside. "What's wrong?" Xia Ling asked her brother. Xia Moyan glanced at her lightly and told her, "Xia Shijuan failed to take good care of Xia Yu and is being punished. She abused you and abandoned you like that at the beginning. Due to fate, it was difficult to settle the score with her. Now it is convenient, just happen to be together. I'll be punished. It's hard to catch a mistake, so of course you have to take revenge." Xia Ling looked at the majestic ancestral hall under the sun, and suddenly felt that Wei Lingnan was not so scary. There is her family here, there are so many people who love and care for her, what else is there to be afraid of? While punishing Xia Shijuan, the clan also made a decision to punish Xia Yu. Since she has joined Wei Lingnan's sect, it is not appropriate to return to the clan's territory. The clan does not want Wei Lingnan's influence to infiltrate, and they do not want to take a 1 in a billion risk. Xia Yu will be permanently expelled and will not be allowed to enter the clan for the rest of her life, and her name will be included in the record of sinners in the family tree. There are clansmen who have committed heinous things. "What's the use of record of sinners?" Xia Ling asked her brother. Xia Moyan said, "For thousands of years, this list has been placed in the most unlucky place in the clan. All the names written on it will receive continuous retribution in every life. Especially for those who are still alive like Xia Yu, the retribution in this world will come quickly. Reporter of this world. It's really what you deserve." Xia Ling suddenly felt a little hopeful. She wondered what Xia Yu's future would be like. City, villa area. Xia Yu, dressed in a light pink dress, raised her hand and knocked on Pei Xian's door. The servant Zhou Ma came out to open the door and looked at her in surprise. "Miss Xia Yu. Why are you here today?" She has not appeared in this villa since she fell out of favor with Pei Xian and disappeared again a few years ago. However, Pei Xian's attitude towards her now is no different from that of an ordinary artist. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 885. Chapter 885 Gouache Painting. Xia Yuchu said, "I haven't seen Brother Xian for a long time. I came to see him. Is he there?" Zhou's mother said, "Here, please wait a moment, I will give you a message." She was a little embarrassed. It was already past 9 o'clock at night. At this time, the husband usually handled official business in the study and did not like to be disturbed. Moreover, Miss Xia Yu has not wanted to be seen by Mr. Xia Yu for the past few years. Will Mr. Xia Yu be angry if she sends a message at this time? However, as a servant, she was not qualified to reject Xiaoyu directly. With a confused look on her face, she turned around and planned to walk back to the villa. Wait, Xiaoyu stopped her and whispered, Mother Zhou, please tell Brother Zion that I just came back from the Xia clan a few days ago and met my sister. I brought a small gift for her. Him looking at Zhou Ma's expression, Xiaoyu understood Pei Zion's attitude towards her, and fearing that she would be shut out, she gave these instructions with a wink. Even if Brother Zi Hung can reject her, can he still reject Xiaoling related news? Xiaoyu thought with some jealousy. Miss Xiaoyu, unexpectedly, Zhou's mother raised her eyes and looked at her, her expression much more serious than before. I know you care about your husband, and it's not easy to bring gifts for him all the way back. I'm just a servant. I shouldn't say anything, but please forgive me for saying something that I shouldn't say. Miss Aya is getting married soon, and she is not destined to be with our husband. If you really care about your husband, your top priority is to make him forget about Miss Aya as soon as possible. No, you should always mention her in front of him. Over the years, my husband's love for Miss Ling has been noticed by Zhou's mother. She had grown up watching her husband, and she really couldn't bear to see her husband trapped in a hopeless love relationship. Xiaoyu secretly cursed the old woman for being ignorant. How dare a slave interfere in his master's affairs? However, under the eaves, she had to lower her head. She suppressed her dissatisfaction and still said softly to Zhou's mother, I understand what you said. Do you think I am willing to mention my sister? But if I don't mention it, how can he meet me? Don't talk about me. In the past few years, has he ever made any false remarks to any woman except my sister? Mom, if this continues, will you bear to see him die alone? How could Zhou's mother bear it? This is the husband she has watched grow up with her own eyes. She has taken care of him since he was a little boy of 5 or 6 years old. She knew how hard he worked when he was a child, memorizing books until dawn, being beaten by his father even though he was very good, and kneeling in the yard on a snowy day, doing arithmetic problems with fingers that were red from the cold. She watched him grow up and become the most outstanding child among his peers in the family. He was so steady and self-disciplined, with a faint kingly demeanor, and was praised by wealthy families. Later, she packed his luggage with her own hands and sent him to study abroad. He had only been abroad for 2 years when news spread in his family that his father, the previous head of the Pei family, had passed away due to serious illness. He hurriedly returned to the country and accepted orders in the face of danger. At the age of 16, he took on the responsibility of such a behemoth as the emperor, faced with internal and external troubles and many difficulties. At that time, how many people wanted to see his jokes? However, he did it. After countless sleepless nights, he stabilized the situation with thunderous power and ushered in a more glorious era for the emperor. He has always been an excellent leader, allowing all those who follow him to trust and rely on him. But these come at a price. Mr. has never had a private life. His daily schedule consists of meetings, and meetings. The only bright spot in life was the girl named Xiaoling, and later Yesin Ling. But I heard that they are actually the same person, but these are not important anymore. The important thing is that the girl suddenly appeared in his life and left cruelly. The husband was left alone, his hair turned gray overnight, and he still thinks about it to this day. Zhou's mother felt sorry for him. If she could, she wished that another girl could come into her husband's life. No matter the status, wealth, or even age or temperament, it was not important. As long as she could make her husband's ashen eyes glow with warmth again. She raised her head and looked at Xiaoyu. They are both women, why doesn't she not know that Xiaoyu has been secretly in love with her husband for many years? Could Xiaoyu be that person? The chances are slim. If Mr. had liked her, he would have been with her many years ago. However, given Mr. 11's current situation, which girl around him can make things happen? Let Xiaoyu try it, it's better than nothing. Joe's mother thought this way and said, I will inform you. Turn around, go upstairs, and tell Pei Xian the news of her arrival. Xiaoyu held a large, flat box and stepped on the wooden stairs step by step to Pei Xian's study on the second floor. In the study, Pei Xian sat silently, the dim light of the old desk lamp scattered on his face, half handsome and half hidden in the shadows, like a silent beast. Is this a gift? This was the first sentence he said when he saw Xiaoyu. There was no greeting or asking if she was okay. All he cared about was the things in her hands. Xiaoyu felt a sting in her heart. However, she soon cheered up and smiled charmingly. Yes, brother Xian, this is a gift that I spent many days making. Do you like it? She handed over the large box carefully wrapped in oilcloth paper. Pei Xian took it and opened it roughly in twos and twos. What came into view was a beautiful gouache painting, depicting the moonlight over the mountains. There was a small Chinese retro room hidden among the flowers. In the room, there was a girl. Opening the window and looking at the moon, the tranquil expression and graceful figure are extremely beautiful in the moonlight. This is Xiaoling. Pei Xian held his breath for a moment, almost stiffly, reaching out his hand and touching the delicate side face of the girl in the painting. Long time no see, she seems to have become more beautiful, with an unprecedented peace and tranquility in her expression. Is it because she is about to get married? Thinking about it like this, his eyes became a little gloomy. This is my sister's residence in Xia's house. I recreated it according to the actual scene one stroke at a time. Xiaoyu waited beside him for a while, and when he had almost seen it, he spoke carefully. That night, I stood among the flowers, I saw my sister admiring the moon behind the window frame. She was so beautiful that I couldn't help but want to draw it and give it to you. Is she okay at Xia's house? He asked. I also felt that my question was a bit redundant. How could she be bad? That was her natal family, she was with her relatives, and, Lilei. Sure enough, Xiaoyu said, she is very good. She is already buying a dowry and is happy every day. Pei Xian's hand holding the frame tightened, leaving a trace of mark on the gouache painting. You can go out, he said to Xiaoyu. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 886. Chapter 886. You are not Xiaoling. How could Xiaoyu go out? She looked at Pei Xian carefully and said softly, Brother Xian, it's inconvenient for me to go home so late. Can I stay here tonight? Pei Xian put down the scroll and looked at her. Xiaoyu said quickly, I don't mean anything else, it's just that, you know, I'm sad that my sister doesn't want to recognize me now. I just miss her so much and want to stay in the guest room that she personally decorated for me again. The guest room is still there, right? This villa was built when Xiaoling still regarded her as the apple of his eye. At that time, a guest room was specially reserved for Xiaoyu, and everything in it was decorated by Xiaoling herself. Later, Xiaoling died, and Pei Xian kept the villa as it was, untouched. Then he said, Go, they were both fallen people at the end of the world, and they were all missing the same girl. Xiaoling thanked him gratefully, opened the door lightly, and left. Entering the guest room, it was indeed the same as before. It was a very gorgeous and pink little girl's room, the style that Xiaoling used to like. But it is also the style that Xiaoyu hates the most. She never liked her sister's help in arranging everything, but Xiaoling had to intervene in everything, which was really annoying. Xiaoyu threw her bag on the bed, took a shower, and put on the light silk nightgown with thin straps, low neckline, and large open back that she brought. It was a very nightgown, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. The hem of the skirt was so short that you could almost see the scenery inside. Coupled with the perfume she sprayed carefully, it was full of seductive femininity. Xiaoyu looked at herself in the mirror and smiled with satisfaction. The plan has gone smoothly up to this point. Next, all we need to do is successfully seduce Pei Zion and become his guest. She didn't want to waste any more time slowly swaying his heart. The gouache paint was laced with a secret drug she bought at a high price from the Wei family. It could enter the blood circulation through skin contact and cause hallucinations. A woman sees her as the one she loves most. When the raw rice is cooked, everything will be easier. She had calculated her menstrual period, and these days were the most fertile times. With some other measures, she was sure to get pregnant in one fell swoop. When the time comes, mother is more valuable than son, and even if Pei Zion doesn't love her, it's not impossible to give her a status. Once they have a name, the two get along day and night, and one day, even though he is as hard-hearted as she is, he will definitely surrender under her long skirt. Xiaoyu had everything planned out and walked out of the room charmingly. In the kitchen, Zhou's mother is making porridge. "What kind of porridge is this?" Xiaoyu stood at the door of the kitchen and asked softly. "Miss Xiaoyu," Zhou's mother turned around and saw her, and was startled. "It's so late and you haven't gone to bed yet." She knew that Xiaoyu stayed in the villa for the night, and helped her wipe the guest room again. However, Xiaoyu also stayed here many times many years ago. She was delicate and frail and rarely stayed up so late. Xiaoyu smiled brightly. "I can't sleep, so I went out for a walk. Is this porridge made for Brother Zion?" Zhou Ma looked at the heat of the porridge, took a bowl and served it, and said, "Yes, sir, my stomach has not been good these past few years, so it would be better to eat something soft and easy to digest as a late-night snack. This is sea cucumber porridge, it is very nourishing." Xiaoyu said, "I'll serve it to him." Zhou's mother couldn't help but take another look at her, and then she noticed how charming the light silk night dress she was wearing was. It was simply seductive. In just a moment, she guessed Xiaoyu's purpose. "I'll excuse you," she said, and gave the porridge to Xiaoyu. In the past, she would have looked down on Xiaoyu, a foxy woman who blatantly seduced men, but it was different now. She wanted to become Pei Zion's woman without some special means. The man had already completely sealed himself off, and if he continued like this, if you go on, you may really end up alone. Between letting him die alone or finding a not-so-good woman, Zhou's mother still chose the latter. Xiaoyu smiled weakly and Lu Fuifeng's eyes moved. "Thank you, Mother Zhou." She walked upstairs with the bowl of porridge. The warm yellow light was still on in the study, and the heavy wooden door was ajar. Xiaoyu pushed the door open and walked in. "Brother Zion." "Get out." Before he could say anything, he heard Pei Zion's voice. Xiaoyu raised her eyes and saw that something was wrong with his expression and his breathing was heavy. He put one hand on the frame and stared straight at Xiaoling in the painting, which was very scary. Xiaoyu understood that the medicine was taking effect. A charming smile appeared on her lips, and she closed the study door with her back hand. Her voice became softer. "Zi Hung, what's wrong with you? Let me see." This time, she did not call brother Zi Hung, but instead used the word Zi Hung that Xiaoling usually called him. Pei Zion's pupils shrank violently. He turned around and saw a woman in pajamas with white and delicate skin walking towards him. She said very tenderly, "You are sick, I will feed you porridge." "Zion, do you remember, one time when you were sick, I cooked a bowl of porridge for you? It tasted so bad, but you drank every drop of it. Zi Hung, try my new porridge. It tastes very good this time." "Xiaoling," he called hoarsely. The woman smiled, put the porridge on the table at his hand, and reached out to hook his neck. "Look at my new pajamas, do you like it? The silk is very soft, you can touch it." Took his hand and touched her. Pei Zion felt hot all over. The face of the woman in front of him overlapped infinitely with the Xiaoling in his memory, as if that innocent girl was back. "Is this a dream?" he murmured, caressing her cheek. "Xiaoling, when did you come back? I miss you so much, do you know?" He hugged her and wanted to rub her into his arms. Xiaoyu was so excited that she was speechless. After so many years, brother Xian finally hugged her. He rubbed her waist with his somewhat rough hands, his hot breath sprayed on her cheek, and he wished he could hold her in his arms the next moment. Xiaoyu hugged him tightly, even her voice was choked with sobs. "Zi Hung, my Zi Hung." Pei Xian lowered his head and was about to kiss her. However, a cool breeze blew through the slightly open window. Pei Xian's originally confused expression became confused for a moment, and then he struggled to regain his brief clarity. He saw the woman in his arms clearly and pushed her away. Xiaoyu was caught off guard and fell heavily to the wooden floor, almost crying in pain. "Zi Hung, what are you doing?" She was surprised and incredulous. "Get out," Pei Xian said hoarsely. In front of the beautiful scene, his body that had been hit by the aphrodisiac could hardly restrain himself. It was a man's instinct, screaming, extremely eager to rush forward and kill the person in front of him. The woman eats it into her belly. However, reason told him that he couldn't. This woman is not Xiaoling, she is Xiaoling's sister. Even if he touches women all over the world, there is only one person he cannot touch. He couldn't make Xiaoling sad. "Get out," his eyes were red, his hands were clenched into fists, and he was trying hard to restrain himself, but his body was trembling slightly due to fighting against the effects of the medicine. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 887. Chapter 887. Xiaoyu is disliked. Xiaoyu risked her life, rushed forward and hugged him tightly, crying, "I love you." The furious Pei Xian pushed her away again, this time with more force, knocking her down against the corner of the hardwood table. Her head was bruised and bleeding, and her hair was scattered. Xiaoyu was crying, disheveled, and crawled over to hug his legs regardless. He kicked her away and strode out with his remaining sense. He rushed all the way to the bathroom in the bedroom. He didn't have time to take off his clothes and turned on the shower head. A jet of cold water rushed out, making him soaked in just a few seconds. The hot feeling in the body subsided a little. However, in just a moment, the throbbing like a maggot attached to the bone came back again. This time, it was more fierce. In front of his eyes, Xiaoling's face lingered, and he recalled the time when they were inseparable many years ago. Damn it, he punched the bathroom wall hard. Under the wash of cold water, the fire was not extinguished, but became even more intense. How can the Wei family's medicine be comparable to the ordinary products on the market? Once an attack occurs, unless there is a real relationship, everything will be in vain. Pei Xian quickly recognized the reality. Tormented, he rushed out of the bathroom and walked downstairs. "Sir, what's wrong with you?" Zhou's mother was startled when she saw him rushing down, dripping with water. Pei Xian's eyes were red. "Get the car ready and go to the nearest nightclub." Listening to his heavy breathing and seeing his unnatural reaction, Zhou's mother realized that it was Miss Xiaoyu who drugged him. "Where's Miss Xiaoyu?" she couldn't help but ask. Why bother looking far away when there is a ready-made woman in front of her, who is cleaner and more knowledgeable than the women outside? Why not use it? Pei Xian glanced at her fiercely. Even in the state of physical and mental torture, he realized that Zhou Ma had the intention to bring him and Xiaoyu together. "That's why I let that bring the porridge into the study. I'll settle the score with you later." He gritted his teeth and went to wake up the driver himself. The driver was also startled when he saw his appearance. He quickly started the car as fast as possible and sped away with Pei Xian. In the dark night, the dark black Rolls-Royce gradually faded away. Xiaoyu's clothes were messy and he stood in front of the study window in embarrassment, watching the car leave. Her heart felt like there were thousands of steel needles piercing her heart. This man would rather go out to find a lady than touch her even once. For a woman, what greater humiliation could there be than this? She was so lost that she slowly collapsed on the ground. Soon after this incident, Pei Xian issued a personnel adjustment order, allowing his right-hand confidant Chu Chen to completely dismiss Xia Yu from his position as manager, and issued an announcement that Xia Yu would not be allowed to appear anywhere he appeared in the future. Rain is approaching. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Xia Yu is completely disliked. How did she offend the boss? Several young girls at the emperor's front desk watched Xia Yu walk by alone, and couldn't help but gather together and whisper, "This is the first time I have seen someone being disliked by the boss to this extent. Even if you don't let her appear in front of you, wow, isn't she looking for death?" It was impossible for them to know what happened in the study that night, but the imagination of the crowd was endless, and they quickly found another possibility. "I think Xia Yu is just unlucky. She will soon catch up with Ye Xingling Mary Lilei. Doesn't our boss really like Ye Xingling? There are also rumors that she is the reincarnation of Xiaoling, so since Xia Yu is Xiaoling's sister, she is probably angry with her. Love breeds hatred. But Miss Aya doesn't recognize the sister in public. Aya, why do you need so many reasons to express your anger?" Several girls at the front desk chirped again. "If you are unlucky, your teeth will get stuck when you drink water. It seems that Xia Yu will be miserable this time." They chatted happily, not because they had any grudge against Xia Yu, but simply because they had more gossip to read. The emperor is a place where everyone speaks based on their status, and those who are superior and those who are inferior are inferior. Now that Xia Yu has suffered a serious setback, her accompanying agent is no longer interested in her, and the notifications she receives are not as good as before. In the industry, news soon spread that Xia Yu was not doing well. What future can an artist who is rejected by his boss have? The entertainment industry is a very realistic place, and there are fewer and fewer good announcements that Xia Yu is willing to take, which has become a vicious cycle. This day, I was filming a variety show on the TV station. Xia Yu held up a crudely made clown hat with a vulgar color and angrily asked the staff, "Didn't you ask me to wear a skirt and play the role of a fairy? Why is this such a shabby thing?" "Miss Xia Yu," the staff said with a smile, "fairies need a pure and beautiful image, you know, pure and beautiful. You have just been sentenced by the court, and you have recorded several programs that have lost ratings, and you still want to. What kind of fairy are you? To be honest, if we hadn't signed a contract with the emperor in advance and had to use you, our director really wanted to replace you with this clown role. It was specially created for you. It fits you very well. Isn't that what you look like now?" Several other staff members looked at her and snickered. Xia Yu couldn't bear this anger, so she turned around and walked out. Halfway there, she was stopped by Agent Li, panting, "Miss Xia Yu, we signed a contract with the TV station. If we break the contract, we will have to compensate for high losses. These losses it will all be borne by you." Now that Xia Yu is disliked by others, he is not so polite to her. Xia Yu said, "It's not that I can't afford to pay, she has plenty of money. She can't even spend all the hundreds of millions of inheritance left by her sister in her previous life. Compensation. It's just a trivial matter." Manager Li said, "In addition to compensation, the company will probably ban you. You are not a big star, so why are you so big? The company really doesn't mind banning such an artist to serve as a warning to other artists." Xia Yu fell silent. After careful consideration, she turned and returned to the dressing room of the TV station. She didn't want to be banned and laughed at by people all over the world. Especially when she thought about Xiaoling's gloating eyes after hearing the news, she couldn't calm down. Taking the clown hat, she rubbed it in her hands, but said no more words of rejection. Wearing clown makeup and her face painted in colorful and dirty colors, she waited in the dressing room for the staff to ask her to record the video. However, After waiting and waiting for an hour, no one came to call her. There are 2 more updates and it will be very late. Let's go to bed first and wake up tomorrow morning. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Sci-fi. Chapter 888. Chapter 888 Secret Invitation. Xiaoyu was impatient with waiting and said to her agent, "Go and have a look." Manager Li went and came back after a long time. He said with an embarrassed look on his face, "The other artists' scenes haven't been finished yet, so the TV station asked us to wait." Xiaoyu's expression changed a little. The TV station was really bullying people. The strict hierarchy of the circle is reflected in all aspects. If a big star comes to record a show, there is no need to wait at all and he will be scheduled very quickly. If it is an ordinary artist, the time will be adjusted according to the recording needs and how long he needs to wait. I can't say for sure. Xiaoyu never had to wait while filming a show before, but now she is treated like an ordinary artist. Why doesn't she feel upset? However, she also knew that today was no better than in the past, and no one cared about her no matter how much resentment she had, so she had no choice but to endure it. 2 hours passed, 3 hours. Xiaoyu finally couldn't sit still and said to her agent, "Go and urge me." Agent Li went there again, and this time, he brought back a piece of news that made her even more angry. Miss Xiaoyu, it's time to finish the work over there. They forgot that you are still waiting here." The agent's voice became more and more angry. "Come smaller and smaller. That's too much." No matter how good Xiaoyu was at pretending, she still couldn't help but strike out at him. The agent also felt very unlucky. Why did he end up with such an unlucky master? "How about we come back tomorrow morning?" the manager gave the solution. The TV station said that the part where the clown was hit with a water balloon was quite interesting. "When the recording of another program ends tomorrow morning, we can borrow their venue. I'll shoot a few more scenes for you." "What? Want to get hit with a water balloon?" Xiaoyu was furious and walked to the door. "Are you my agent? Why are you so cowardly? You have been bullied to the point of being bullied and yet you still speak for them. Go and tell them that I won't shoot anymore. Go. The liability for breach of contract. They let me go first. At worst, I will find a lawyer to file a lawsuit. Go quickly." The agent secretly said something bad and had no choice but to go slowly. Xiaoyu stayed alone in the small dressing room, facing the empty walls on all sides. She looked at herself in the mirror, and the colorful paint in her clown makeup seemed to be mocking her embarrassment. She stared blankly for a while, then suddenly stretched out her hand to wipe the paint off her face, removing the makeup so hard that she almost removed a layer of her skin. Then she suddenly picked up her bag and walked out of the dressing room. Walking to the underground parking lot, I found that the driver had gone to hide somewhere and hadn't come yet. She looked at the deserted empty car with closed doors and windows. Suddenly, a huge feeling of powerlessness came over her. After taking a few steps back and retreating into the shadow of the pillars, she sat down slumped against the wall. She no longer cared about her image or the reporters who might secretly take photos. She thought about the life she had lived over the years, which was worse than death. She had been sick since childhood, lived in the shadow of her sister, had her lip syncing exposed, and was taken to the laboratory to be used as a living body. Experiments, being punished by the Xia family. Now, even a random staff member dares to bully her. She hugged her body tightly, her shoulders shaking slightly. The sound of footsteps comes from far to near. A pair of elegant and expensive pointed high heels stopped in front of her. A bottle of mineral water was handed to her. Xiaoyu didn't reach out to pick it up, nor did she raise her head. She just said dully, "Are you here to laugh at me too?" The woman knelt down beside her and said in a soft voice, "I'm not here to laugh at you, I just feel sympathy for you. Yaxingling is really the most damned woman in the world, isn't she? Xiaoyu then looked up at her and saw that it was Sutang. Today, Sutang is still wearing a finely crafted embroidered dress, her face is carefully put on light makeup, and her long hair is pulled into a bun, very elegant. Sutang smiled, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." Xiaoyu's expression softened a little, but she still didn't relax her vigilance. "Why did you come to me?" Sutang said, "This is not the place to talk. How about meeting in secret tonight?" She gave the address of a coffee shop, which was full of quiet private rooms with good sound insulation. Xiaoyu didn't know what kind of medicine she was selling in her gourd, but she was moved by the words, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." The whole world knew that in the battle for Lilei, Sutang lost to Xiaoling and was completely defeated. In a sense, Xiaoyu and Sutang should indeed share the same hatred. She nodded. Sutang had a faint smile on his lips, stood up, and left gracefully. Xiaoling spent some time with her family in the clan, rushed to deal with the work, and then left and returned to the city. Back in S City, looking at the familiar scenery, her whole mood was in high spirits. When she thought about officially getting married to Lilei in the near future, a beautiful smile appeared on her lips. "Call Lilei, hey, I'm back, where are you?" Lilei was also very happy, "You finally came out of the clan? I'm handling things at the headquarters and will come back to see you in 3 days." Now he has taken over the entire Li family's industry. No matter how lazy he is, he still has to work from time to time. Go back and keep an eye on it. In fact, it has to be said that it is a small miracle that he can manage affairs so well despite being absent from the headquarters for such a long time. Xiaoling knew he was busy, so she gently told him to take care of himself and hung up the phone. Going back to her villa to settle down, she sent a message to Moments to tell everyone about her return. After a while, a text message from Luoluo came in. "Xiaoling, you are finally back, we all miss you so much. Do you have time tonight? A few friends have prepared a secret party for you at the Blue Fantasy Club. It is a very pleasant surprise. You must come. By the way, remember to dress up beautifully." Xiaoling looked at the text message and smiled softly. Luoluo still loves to play so much, and she doesn't know what weird idea she has come up with this time. She knew that the club was a very high-end place in the city. It was frequented by many artists on weekdays, and she had been there once or twice herself. "Okay," she replied to Luoluo. At night, she dressed herself up beautifully and came to the club. The waiter at the door recognized her celebrity face and came up to her with a smile and asked, "Miss Ling, it's a rare visitor. It's rare for someone to come here. Are you here to sit down today or do you have an appointment?" Xiaoling said, "There is a reservation." She reported the box number that Luoluo gave her. The waiter guided her inside and smiled again. "I didn't expect Miss Aya to like to play with this too." She was non-committal and more curious about what Luoluo was talking about. She walked all the way, passing through the private rooms, and went deep into the deepest part of the club. There was a secret and elegant door there, and the waiter let her in. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 889. Chapter 889 Anti-Wolf Spray. As soon as Xiaoling entered the door, she noticed something was wrong in the atmosphere. The lights in the box were dim, filled with smoke, and there were countless shadowy bodies intertwined here, and the sounds of psychedelic electronic music and moans were intertwined. Why would Luoluo let her come to a place like this? Soon, Xiaoling realized that something was wrong, and turned around to pull the door handle of the box. However, when she pulled it, it did not open. The door had been locked from the outside. Little beauty, a man's body pressed against hers like a snake, and the strong smell of tobacco sprayed in her ears. "Come and play with me, you are so beautiful, Your skin is so good. His hand restlessly moved it spread out over her body, all the way up her waist. Suddenly, screams were heard. Other people in the box were alerted at this moment. Many of them turned their heads in disheveled clothes and looked in the direction of the door. Xiaoling was seen standing expressionless, and the man had rolled on the ground at her feet, covering her most important part and wailing in pain. Yasin Ling, someone finally recognized her and shouted inarticulately. Xiaoling looked sideways and found out that it was a young star. She had seen her on TV several times. She had a very pure image of a pretty girl. But he didn't expect that his private life would turn out to be so corrupt. At this moment, he was leaning on a middle-aged man with a fat head. His clothes had almost been taken off, his t-shirts were hanging on his ankles, and his eyes were blurred. "It's you, Xiaoling," another voice spoke. It was a woman in a fishnet dress who was half-tied. She walked towards her seductively and stretched out her hand with bright red nail polish to touch her face. "No, do you recognize me? I'm Sister Hua, you've seen me before." Sister Hua smiled drunkenly. Xiaoling took a step back in disgust, but she recognized her, Sister Hua, a female star who had faded in the entertainment industry a few years ago. They had met each other before. Taking a closer look at the people in the room, Xiaoling was surprised to find that most of them were artists, directors, producers, and the like in the entertainment industry. At this time, they were puffing away smoke and having with men and women, and the expressions on their faces were each one looked more lazy and enjoying themselves than the other. She became more alert, pressed her body tightly against the door, and tried to pull the door handle again, but still couldn't open it. "Xiaoling, come here, take a sip." Sister Hua almost hung on her and handed her the half-smoked cigarette. "It's very high quality, with added ingredients, ha ha ha, I guarantee you, like it?" Xiaoling finally understood. "Do you think they are gathering people together to do poison?" The special smell of smoke in the air made people feel uneasy, but it also seemed to make people relax, soft and powerless, and, she discovered with some horror that her body was gradually getting hotter, and the smoke component in the air seemed to be erotic. "Roll." She tried her best to calm down, her mind raced, and she said in as calm a tone as possible, "I'm in the wrong place. Please ask the waiter to open the door and let me out." "Were you in the wrong place?" A naked male director got up from the sofa and walked toward her step by step, smiling maliciously. "I, a beauty, do you think it's so easy to get out after you come in here? We are, so what will you do if you are exposed after you go out? Come, enjoy it with us. This is the best marijuana and new medicine. When you smoke it, join us and you will be your own." He took the cigarette from Sister Hua's hand and stuffed it into Xiaoling's mouth. Xiaoling suddenly turned her head to avoid it and cursed angrily, "Don't touch me." This angered the man. He chuckled and reached out to pat her delicate cheek. "Very good, you don't want to smoke, right? It's not bad to play with us like this. I've wanted to taste you for a long time." He started to tear her clothes off, and she hurriedly stretched out her hands to cover them. Several other people nearby also came forward and joined in tearing her clothes off. Although Xiaoling has learned some self-defense techniques, she is outnumbered and will be in trouble sooner or later if this continues. She pushed the two people away with all her strength, spotted a gap in the crowd, and ran out in a hurry. "Chase!" someone shouted from behind. The box was not big and the door was blocked. She ran towards the back of the box. Fortunately, she found a small door. She didn't care much and quickly got in and locked the door. There was a banging sound on the door. She tugged on her clothes that were almost torn to cover her body, and then she realized that she had run into the private bathroom in the private room. It was very small, and the toilet was dirty as if it hadn't been washed in 10,000 years. There was vomit everywhere. Objects and some suspicious traces. She didn't care about all this, and pressed her back against the compartment door to prevent those people from breaking down the door and rushing in. hands out his hand to rummage in the bag he carries with him, quickly finds his cell phone and makes a call. However, there is no signal. Damn it, she couldn't help but curse out, feeling 100% sure that she had been framed. In addition to receiving ordinary signals, her mobile phone can also connect to the Lee family's dedicated satellite signals. The coverage of that satellite signal is extremely strong and can be received even in the wilderness. Now there is only one possibility of not receiving it. A very powerful signal jammer was installed nearby. Why would a high-end club install a signal jammer? Unless someone is deliberately harming her and doesn't want her to make a phone call. She threw the phone back into her bag. Outside, the sound of banging on the door became louder, and the fragile door panel of the compartment creaked, indicating that it could not hold up for much longer. Calm down, must be calm. Xiaoling forced herself to calm down. She had to find a way to get out. Otherwise, once she fell into the hands of this group of drug addicts, who knew what kind of terrible devastation she would suffer. However, at this moment, she heard the sound of a police car siren. The police are here, she was overjoyed. Could they be here to arrest a group of people who gathered to commit poisonous crimes? However, when she thought about it, her heart sank again. Since someone framed her, then these policemen would definitely take her back to the police station for interrogation. Maybe there were reporters outside who captured this scene. Does she still need her reputation and popularity? More importantly, as the quasi-mistress of the Lee family, how could she end up in such a place? What a shame for Li Lei. Xiaoling cursed again and scratched her hair frantically. Suddenly, her eyes fell on the high iron window of the bathroom and stopped moving. It's really a perfect road. She suddenly became excited and rummaged through her bag as fast as she could. It didn't matter what lipstick, powder, or facial tissue fell on the dirty ground. She rummaged through the secret compartment of her bag and found a small bottle of anti-inflammatories. Wolf spray, I can't wait to hug it and give it a good kiss. This bottle of anti-wolf spray is specially made. If you spray it in the normal way, it will be an ordinary anti-wolf spray. However, there was a small mechanism on the bottle cap. Xiaoling unscrewed it in a few clicks and opened another liquid in the bottle, sandwich. That liquid was highly corrosive and was especially effective against metal objects. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 890. Chapter 890, Climbing the Tree. This liquid was specially prepared by Li Lei because he was worried that she would be kidnapped and have an accident. It is very effective when encountering handcuffs, security doors and windows, and even knives and guns. Xiaoling kicked off her high heels and climbed onto the toilet on both hands and feet. Regardless of the dirt on her body, she carefully dripped the liquid on the hard grating of the iron window. It was also her first time to actually use this liquid, and she prayed silently in her heart that it would be effective. Sure enough, in just a moment, the iron window silently corroded a large area, revealing an exit that could barely allow one person to pass through. She was very happy and was about to crawl, but then she thought of a question: does this liquid seem to corrode human skin? Although not much liquid was poured out and there was nothing left after corroding the iron window, she did not dare to take the risk of touching the residue on it. She really doesn't want to be disfigured. His brain was spinning rapidly. What did Li Lei say back then? By the way, when there is not much liquid left, you can wrap your head, face, and exposed skin with thick clothes, and rush out as quickly as possible. But she looked at her clothes and felt like crying. It's all because of Luoluo's text message, telling her to dress nicer. She was dressed beautifully, but the material was too little. Wearing a short black skirt with glittering gold suspenders, it only reached her thighs, and there was no extra fabric. In her current condition, if she wanted to pass through a small window filled with corrosive liquid, she would be looking for death. The sirens have stopped, and the police knock on the door came from outside the box. Open the door. Check. The box suddenly became chaotic. Those who were smashing the door of the toilet cubicle no longer paid attention to her, but she did not dare to open the door and go out. Calm down, calm down, calm down, she muttered, her eyes falling on the toilet tank. Without caring much, she took off her suspender skirt in a few moments, opened the toilet water tank, soaked the skirt with water, and then poured a large amount of water onto the iron window stained with corrosive liquid. After a few times, the corrosive liquid was diluted a lot. The police had already rushed into the box, shouting loudly, "Don't move. Everyone squat down. Hold your head with your hands." Danger was imminent. Xiaoling forced herself not to listen to those voices, and focused on the matter at hand. She also poured a lot of water on herself to ensure that if she accidentally got into corrosive liquids, the damage would be minimized. Then, she spread her soaked little suspender skirt on the iron window. With a soft sound, there was smoke coming from several places, and it was obviously corroded. However, fortunately, it was not serious and no holes were really corroded. Xiaoling cheered herself up, using her skills from climbing trees in the orphanage as a child, working as an artist in recent years, and practicing dance and self-defense for many years. She picked up her high heels and bag and climbed up the window nimbly. The window was more than 1 meter above the ground. She threw her high heels and bag down first, then jumped down, and finally pulled down the small suspender skirt that was spread on the window sill. She originally wanted to put on the skirt. Even if it got soaked by the water, it would be better than just wearing a black with thin straps. Unfortunately, God was against her. Although the skirt was not corroded, it was still wearable. The side underneath has been corroded and has several large holes, and it will fall down with a slight step. Xiaoling was also speechless. "Captain, come and see. There is a toilet here." Suddenly, the police's shout was heard from inside the house. Xiaoling felt that she could no longer stay under the wall, so she quickly picked up the high heels and pieces of her dress, and ran away with her bare feet and black underwear with thin straps. She felt that she had never been so embarrassed in her life, oh no, in both of her lives. If a reporter appeared at this time and took a picture of her appearance, it would be guaranteed to be a front-page headline the next day. Her hair was messy and her body was dripping wet. She finally ran into the green belt not far away under the cover of night, spotted a tree, and climbed up with some difficulty. He raised his head and glanced in the direction of the club. Police are already inspecting the back window of the toilet. She secretly screamed, "If this continues, as long as they follow the water traces and find her, they will catch her sooner or later." She quickly took out her mobile phone from her bag and dialed Lilei's number. Fortunately, it seems that the signal is out of the range of shielding. This time, it is easy to get through. Lilei, she didn't want to talk nonsense with him and got straight to the point. "I was framed. The police came to the club to catch drug addicts. I jumped out of the back window and ran away. Now I'm in a tree. They're going to search for me soon. Can't you continue to escape somewhere else?" Lilei didn't waste any words. While talking on the phone, he gestured to his subordinates in the conference room, instructing them to call up the coordinates of the person on the other side of the call now. "I can't escape," Xiaoling said. She was so depressed that she almost cried. "I have no clothes to wear, so I can't go out naked. Lilei, just stay in the tree and don't move. I'll think of a solution." With that said, he hung up the phone and dialed another number based on Xiaoling's current coordinates. "Hey, I'm looking for Inspector Kui. Outside the club." In the darkness, several policemen came over with flashlights, getting closer and closer. "Looking at the traces, they should be in this area," one of the policemen said. "The other person is probably a petite woman who can't run far. Search carefully and you can't let go of a drug addict." "Yes," several policemen agreed and dispersed. Xiaoling was hiding in a tree, wearing only underwear that could not cover her body. Her whole body was still wet, and she shivered when the cold wind blew. She was panicked and scared. What if the police found her? For now, she can only place her hope in Lilei, hoping that he can find a way to save her. But, Lilei is thousands of miles away, can it be done? After waiting uneasily for a while, 2 policemen arrived under her tree. What the hell, why can't I find it? One of the policemen said. Another said, be patient, it's so dark, you may not know where it is hidden. You see, the lipstick and powder just left in the toilet are good goods. This woman may have a great background. If she can seize the opportunity. Hey, is it raining? Suddenly, the first policeman asked. No, said the other. Then why is there water? The first policeman touched the back of his neck and looked up at the tree. Xiaoling hurriedly hid among the dense branches and leaves. Her skin suddenly felt hot, as if she had been stung by some insect, but she couldn't care less. Another policeman picked up a flashlight and swung it at the tree. Xiaoling wished she could shrink her body to the smallest size, and prayed in her heart that the heaven and the earth, no matter what gods, Buddhas, and ghosts she is, must protect her from being discovered by the police. End of this chapter.